talk about fears. Let's talk about love. Yeah, I got fears, but I ain't got no love.
Okay, so today what I want to do is I want to revisit Bobby Fuller. And I know it's only been like a week, but some things didn't sit well with me. Okay, so when they don't do that, I'm going to address them. And mostly they didn't sit well with me because of my assessment. You know, when you are, I guess, if you love your vocation or whatever it is, your work, your job, I equate it sometimes to professional athletes. When you get done playing a game or something and then you go home and you sit and you think, then when you lay down to go to bed you think more. That happens to me all the time with cold cases. It's because it's my life. You know, it's just what I've been doing for the past 20 years. So this case with Bobby Fuller, I researched it, came up with that assessment about the apartments and everything, and I felt good about it. You know, I felt really good. And last couple of nights I've been laying in bed and before I go to sleep and thinking about the case, and there's some things that didn't make any sense to me, and then there were some tidbits that you guys threw at me in the comment section that, you know, made me pause a little bit and think. You know how I always say you don't know everything. You don't know all the facts. The police don't even know all the facts, but they probably know more than you do. They probably know more than I do about this case. That's why I said it's always important to be there on scene. But a couple of things don't make sense to me about my assessment. There's a lot of things that don't make sense to me about the case. But I think I was I don't think I should have made the determination as steadfast as I did. Not about it being, well, yeah, about it being homicide versus suicide. Number one, the biggest thing that I thought on is the autopsy report. And although I didn't read all of it, you know, that the autopsy report was changed from suicide to accidental, but the cause of death, the asphyxiation by gasoline, although I have trouble with that, who am I to question what the medical examiner wrote? He knows more about that shit than I do. Okay? He probably knows a 9, 10 out of 10. And I know about a 5 out of 10 when it comes to that. You know, if it was my case, I would certainly give that autopsy report to Cyril Weck or Warner Spitz to get Michael Bodden to get a second opinion. I mean, that's... But I wouldn't give that opinion because it's out of my lane. I'm an investigator. I'm a detective. I'm not a medical student. I never went to medical school. So I shouldn't be... I can still comment on certain things, but I can't be definitive. You know what I mean? If the autopsy report of Bobby Fuller says that he died of inhalation of gas, I have to accept that as fact. I mean, I could question it, sure. You always question it, but you start questioning things like that all the time just to fit your narrative. I think you become a conspiracy theorist, and I'm certainly not that. I mean, I would have to look at the reputation of this medical examiner, and I know the shoddiness of the police work, supposedly. Yes, it was very bad that the gas can was thrown away at the scene, especially because how do you know that it's ruled a suicide right there at the scene? You have to wait till the autopsy reports to come back, but yet you already threw away the gas can? That makes no sense. That's ignorance. That's stupidity. But hindsight's always 20/20. So, the autopsy report, if it says he died of inhaling gasoline, I have to abide by that. So I can't make the assumption that he was murdered. I guess you could if you could say, well, he was murdered by intoxicating fumes. I mean, then you're pushing, right? You're saying, okay, he was knocked out, placed inside the vehicle, windows rolled up. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I could see that, but then I don't think you're trying to kill him. I mean, that wouldn't be the intent. The intent would be to scare him, hurt him, but not kill him. And then all of a sudden, whoops, he died. Yeah, I could see that. Maybe, but I doubt that's why they changed it from suicide to accidental. Him huffing the gas theory has some merit. Now hear me out. He has to do it in his own car. Or his mom's car, the vehicle he has. Now that's another question I'd want to know. Why does he only have his mom's vehicle? Where's his car? He just had a hit single. He's got to have money. Now, some people choose not to have a car. Let me tell you something. I've been to LA many a times. And if I lived out there, I don't think I'd own a car. But that's now. That wasn't 1966. Now, another thing that, remember in that video that I did on Bobby Fuller, I addressed this in a general scope. I said, it's very important to know how he was dressed. What was he wearing? Those things are very important to know whether he left in a hurry, you know, in regards to the phone call. Somebody said that he was wearing his mom's slippers. That's huge. I used to say that all the time on Hunt for the Zodiac, and people would make fun of me all the time. Because I'd always say, that's huge. But I'm going to say it again. That's huge. Right? That shows two things. One, he either left in a hurry. Number two, he wasn't going very far. Hence, the apartment complex, where I said that this probably took place. Or three, he was huffing gas, and he just put on a pair of slippers that were right there. I would think somebody would know whether he would huff gas. His victimology would tell you that. Now, don't talk to his family, okay? I don't know if they'll be truthful about that. And the only reason, nothing against the family, is they're trying to protect an image. I understand that. I get it. His friends, his bandmates, those people, they would know that. If he was into drugs. Again, autopsy report reported no illegal drugs. But him being doused with gas. Now see, that's something that could be misconstrued, right? What happens if he's not doused, he's not soaked, but he has splash on him or something. If he was huffing the gas and it spilled on him by mistake. Through the years, could that be misconstrued as being doused? Sure, it could. It's so many minute things that could change the course of this, and it already has. Him wearing the slippers that I just found out, if true. I don't know. I think I was just too quick in my assessment to say it was, without a doubt, homicide. I'm backtracking. Yes. And I'm allowed to do that. Investigators, amateurs, you're allowed to do that. It's okay. That's the problem. When new information comes to light and you stick to that theory and you try to make that fit your theory, you're the problem. If something comes in and it points away from your theory, you have to be man enough to own that. Okay? Now, the slipper bit doesn't change my mind on homicide or suicide or accidental. What's changing my mind is the autopsy report. If the autopsy report says he died from inhaling those fumes, then I can't say that it was homicide. Could say that it was manslaughter. Maybe third degree, I guess, because maybe he was. It's the injuries that he had on him tells me that he was in a fight. But if somebody wanted to murder somebody, they would murder him without question. Shoot him in the face. Strangle him. Stab him. If you're going to stage it to look like a suicide, why are you going to use gas cans and inhalants? That makes zero sense, right? So although I said that he was, something happened at that apartment complex, and I still believe that. I still believe that the answer is there. Because it makes no sense to drive him dead back in his car to place him there. Now, maybe they were somewhere else and they drove back together. Well, somebody had made mention that it looked like he was in the passenger seat, leaned over. But listen, that photograph was from a recreation. That wasn't the actual photograph, so I don't know how he was. All I heard from his brother was that he was slumped in the front seat. Now, if he comes back to that apartment building, that complex, I can see that. I can visualize that. Alive, not dead. I can't see them bringing him back, leaving him in that car dead. It makes zero sense. You would just leave him where he died at. But again, that phone call that he got at 2 o'clock or whatever it was in the morning, and him leaving, I have to know if he left wearing those sneakers, or I mean those slippers. That's important to know. Because that means he's planning on coming right back. He's not going far. Now, could that call have been from somebody in a different apartment building? Sure, it could have been. Right down, you know, from a different apartment. Okay, let's think this out. He certainly could have got a call from somebody that said he was out of gas. Somebody has to know where that gas can came from. His mom had to have been asked that question by the police. I don't know. Would you keep a gas can in an apartment building? I mean, in LA? Where do you keep that stuff? You know, here in the mountains of central Pennsylvania, I have a barn. I have a shed that I wouldn't keep gas with a gas can inside my house. So where did it come from? See, I think there's answers out there. And I think those answers could get us to the truth. But the bottom line here is, I think I jumped the gun in saying that this was a homicide. And the reason I'm saying this and I'm bringing it to you is because I'm not one of those people. I'm not one of those people that makes assertions without sound evidence and judgment. I can say, hey, I feel, but I don't like doing that. And I think in my video I said I feel that this is a homicide. I'm going to backtrack on that. I think there was some sort of altercation because of his injuries, but I have got to go with the medical examiner's ruling of autopsy and say, you know, he died from inhaling that. If that's what it said. If that's what it said, that's what it is. Or it's one of two things. He's corrupt and he's covering something, and I doubt that. I don't know the guy, but right off the bat, I'm going to say that's not probable. Or two, he's incompetent and he made a mistake. I mean, yeah, anybody can make mistakes. I make mistakes all the time. But I don't know what his reputation is as a medical examiner. And I'm not going to discredit him based off of just my, 2-day, 3-day research on a case. I shouldn't and I will not do that to somebody's credibility. So until I hear more, I'm not ashamed to say I don't know. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't know. I think if some questions get answers to them, we'll be able to figure out a little bit more and we can revisit this again. Doesn't matter if we revisit it 100 times. As long as we get it right. If he was wearing slippers when they found him, that changes a little bit there, because that just means he was comfortable, he wasn't going far. And to be honest with you, it leads credence to him dying accidentally. Or I guess it could be by his own hands. Although, why would he choose that method? But I've seen people choose very weird methods to kill themselves. But nothing in his victimology said suicide. So, just like the medical examiner when he changed it to accidental death. Very well could have been that. Very well. But I would want to know about those injuries. I got to know about those injuries. The petechial hemorrhaging. The bruises. The cut on his head that his brother Randy, I think it was Randy, said. That screams fight, obviously. Such a weird case. Oh, it's maddening. I just watched the stupidest show, and you guys will probably disagree with me, but I just finished watching The Watcher on Netflix. It started off so good. And then the last 2 or 3 episodes, I was ready to turn it off, but I was already invested. And I was like, I already watched 4 episodes. I got to finish it. Not impressed. I love that actor, though. Especially if you guys ever get a chance to watch Vinyl. It was a HBO show that Bobby Carnival was in. About music in the 70s. And he was a music agent, producer, whatever. Great show. Great show. So go watch it. But anyhow, The Watcher's dumb. In my opinion. And it drove him mad not knowing who sent those letters. And I'm the same way about this case now. It's been a week. I keep thinking about it. Some cases just come and go. You know what I mean? You do them, you do an assessment. They stay with me for a day, and then I move on. This one, I can't. It's maddening. It's stuck in my brain. Why is that? I got to figure it out. That's what my brain tells me. My whole being is like, you got to figure this out. Come on. It ain't that hard. So many questions. I just need more access to things. And that is very truth. A lot of truth to that statement, because when you don't have access to police reports, autopsy reports, crime photographs, videos and stuff, you are behind the 8 ball. And you're swimming uphill in a current, because it's difficult. But sometimes that's what you have to do. And you'll be wrong, just like this. You can be wrong. Because then you get something, oh, that's right. That makes sense now. I wonder if his mom just missed that car being out there. If that car was there the whole time. I'd want to know. How many times did she check on it? What times? Did he park in the same parking spot all the time? How big was the parking lot? Was it underneath a tree? Were there other cars beside it? Whose cars were they? I'm sure the police did all those and asked all those questions. I would hope. the thing is, if this is not a homicide investigation, this is an accidental death or suicide, the police report should be available. Right? They got to be out somewhere. The family has to have requested them. Where are they? Now, if there was no police reports done, period, we got a problem. You know, this might be a case that I dig it. I keep digging, and I go and get answers. It might be that. It might be that. This might be a case where I start making a little bit of noise. Haven't done that in a while. Shake some trees. Ruffle some feathers. Be the hated guy again. I've been that. People don't like when you start uncovering the past. Yet it can't be just for me. The reason I do that for people is for the victims and the victim's family. So, yeah. If I hear from Bobby Fuller's family, I'm gonna ruffle a few feathers. I'm gonna make some stuff happen. For them, I will certainly do that. It's one of those cases that is just sticking with me. So, you know, you have to understand. Remember I said before about how you don't want people talking down to you? I'm a big proponent of people not, you know, being all professional and stuffy in their suit and ties and talking down to you and lecturing you. And that's why I do this, because I don't want to be that type of person. I was that type of person. Or I pretended to be that type of person. You know, I was always uncomfortable going to conferences and universities and lecturing, and every day, of course, as a detective, you know, where I wore a suit and tie to work. I don't like that. I like this. T-shirts. Well, this one has sleeves on. Normally I don't, but you have to be comfortable when you're talking about this stuff and comfortable when you're investigating it. Now, I would never wear a cutoff shirt or a T-shirt like this when I interview a family member. Never. And the Hunt for the Zodiac, they tried to get me to do that when I interviewed Sherry Joe Bates' brother, and I wouldn't do it. So I put on a suit jacket, and that's out of respect. But the point being is, you know, I am considered one of the foremost experts in cold cases and all this bullshit, all these titles that don't really matter. But I feel that I've worked with the best people, you know. I've consulted with the best people. And, you know, they might consider me one of the best. I consider one of them the best. It's all of us together that can make things happen. For instance, if I was to take this case further and I got the autopsy report, like I said, I would give that to two people that I trust right now. Warner Spitz or Dr. Cyril Weck, and get their opinion. I've worked with them hundreds of times, and they would let me know what they think. Then, if they say he died of this, inhaling gas, I'm taking their word for it. Okay? And then we have to figure out some things of what else happened, but that's the first thing that I would do. After 20-something years of working cold cases and FBI and all this stuff that I've done, and the professional people that I have met doing this, that's why I created the ASOC. You know, was to get all those people together and to come up with solutions. And to be considered one of the best in the business of cold cases, it's very humbling, because I am working beside who I think are the best. You know, Dr. Henry Lee and, you know, Jim Clemente and Bob Keppel, Mary Ellen O'Toole, all those people that sent me books. together, we should be able to figure this shit out, right? We're the best in the business. We should be able to figure this out. So, it's my hope that Bobby Fuller's family watches this and gets a hold of me, because I think it's important to dig a little deeper. But I just wanted to make this video to revisit this and say, hey, I'm going to stay in my lane a little bit more and not question that autopsy report, because I'm not a medical professional. I'm just not. Now, I can question the injuries that he had besides the inhalation, and I can question things about his dress and the vehicle and all the investigative aspects of it. But when it comes down to, if the medical examiner said he died from inhaling gas, I'm going to take his word for that until I see otherwise. That's why I want to make this video. Okay? Nothing wrong with that. Hey, until next time, you know what it is. Alright? Mains out.